Hey, welcome in. I'm Rita, and this is The Story I'm Telling Myself, a podcast about uncovering the beliefs that hold us back and rewriting them with truth, courage, and clarity. If you've ever felt like you're standing in your own way, you are not alone. Let's get into it. It is Thursday, and it is the final episode of season 1 of the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast. If you are with us live this morning, please jump in the comments, say hello. Welcome our guest, Brad Luttrell. I met Brad in person for the first time ever. I met him first on LinkedIn, although he didn't remember me. He'll pretend he did, but he didn't. But I met him in the green room, backstage. We were both promoting on TV on the same day. And so it's just kismet, Brad, that you are here with me for this final episode. And thank you for saying yes to joining us on the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast. Please introduce yourself to everyone.
You're welcome. I am going to contradict you. I think I did not recognize you at first, if I recall correctly, because I do think I was like, who?
In fairness, I recognized you because you had your Go Wild hat on.
Yeah. I think we were there to that was 2022, if I remember correctly, because I was there to talk about the festival that we were doing. But yeah, I think once we started chatting, I remembered connecting with you because you lived in the comments. You were commenting on a lot of my stuff and supporting what we were doing, which, and I'll do my intro in a second. I do this sometimes with podcasts where I just take over and we'll just go down these rabbit holes. But I always tell people, like, if you consistently showing up and supporting other people, it does build this relationship, right? And, now I see you all the time on my stuff. I know you would totally recognize you in Kroger, right? If we were to bump into each other now. But, it just takes kind of staying present with people you want to be connected to. So.
Well, tell people about who you are and what you're up to, because I will just jump in and say, I got to watch what seemed like from my seat, a very meteoric ride with Go Wild, only for you guys to plummet to the earth, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But you're killing it again with Prologue. So just tell people who you are.
Yeah. So I think it's a 30-minute episode. So this is going to take 37 minutes to do the whole background. Now I'll try to be quick. So my background is varied. I came from Southeastern Kentucky, had a journalism degree. I did journalism for a couple years. I founded a couple different companies when I was fresh out of college and trying to do journalism. I graduated during the Great Recession, which historically was a terrible time to try to become a journalist, as all these news organizations were just slashing payroll, right? So I had to get out of that, got into marketing, started in social media, switched over to PR for a little bit, got fired for trying to start another company on the side. I went to another agency, worked my way up from copywriter to creative director, and then I founded this company, Go Wild, which is what you were talking about. Now, in between there, I was an interim marketing director at a company called Seek Now. I never talk about that part, but there was a point before I leapt over to Go Wild totally, where I was kind of still a foot in each canoe. And then I finally got going with Go Wild, and it was the ride of a lifetime, like you said. We founded the company in 2016 in my basement, me and 3 other guys. We bootstrap built the first 8 or 9 months of the product, and then I just started raising money, and I had no idea how to do that. I literally Googled how to raise money for an idea, because that's all we had was an idea at that point. And then we raised like almost $500,000 in that first round, but I still wasn't quite comfortable making that jump because I was still working at the agency. So eventually raised another round and did my interim marketing thing. And before I knew it, we were partnered with Garmin on this top secret project to, be able to come out and launch an integration with them. We partnered with them from 2018 all the way to the end. They were a great partner. But I mean, talk about a rocket ship when you're a startup and you're partnering with a company on this, we had a contract signed with a multi-billion-dollar company. I felt like for sure we were off to the moon. Then we ended up on an accelerator, this business accelerator that was huge. COVID hit, completely wiped out our business model. So we pivoted. I didn't even tell what we were. Sorry, I'm kind of out of practice on the Go Wild story at this point. It was a social media app for hunters and anglers. We were monetizing with advertising. We pivoted over to e-commerce during COVID, and at that point it was kind of up and down, and then we figured it out. And when we figured it out, it was off to the moon. You know, I remember the first time we hit $1 million in revenue for a year. And then the next year I thought was going to be like, okay, this is it. Like we were having $10,000 days at the end of 22. We were trying to sell the company, and then the economy just shifted so hard, and we had the rug pulled out from under us. You know, it's a long story on what happened in the outdoor space, but you know, REI lost $310 million that year. Backcountry.com sold for pennies on the dollar. Backcountry was one of the biggest outdoor retailers. There were other hunting and fishing brands that were closing entirely and selling through, you know, bankruptcy and auction processes. One of them had raised about 5 times more money than we had. And we're doing $80 million a year at their peak, and they still went bankrupt. And so I kind of saw the writing on the wall. This started falling apart. Actually, 2 days from now makes a year ago that I got like that was my last day as a paid employee of Go Wild. I ended up working through the rest of the year, just trying to wind things down and sell the company. But, you know, I'll let you decide how much we get into that backstory with how it all came down. But like at one point, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to what I'm doing now. I'll tell you, this is hard to do like in a short answer. But, you know, at some point last year, I started thinking about what I wanted to do next and thought about doing the full-time job, decided against it, and decided to found another company, which I worked on for 90 days and then scrapped entirely. I just decided it wasn't the right thing for me at the time. And all along the way, I was consulting, and I had like people, I don't mean to brag, but like people were falling over trying to get like, hey, I really want you to work on my thing. I saw what you did with Go Wild. And I thought like I was a founder. I'm good at fundraising. I'm good at pitch decks. But people were coming to me for storytelling. And they like what you did with your brand and how you told that story. I want to do that for my brand. I want to do that for my brand. That's what they all kept saying. And I had this realization of like, I'm not good at the thing I thought I was good at. Like I am good at that. That's not the way to say it. I am not known for the thing I was thought at. I had that thought in my head.
Right.
Yeah. And
right,
so,
which is so important to what we're going to talk about today, right?
Right.
This thing about painkiller and vitamin,
exactly.
right?
So we're almost to that point of the story where I started realizing that like I was a storyteller, and which I always knew that, like, but I didn't realize that my reputation was that, because I'd worked really hard to build my reputation as this outdoor tech founder. And so I ended up the same weekend I decided to shut Go Wild down. I decided to figure out this consulting thing. Did not know what it was going to be. Didn't have a name. Had no idea where I was going. Fast forward to today, I now run Prologue Stories LLC, or just Prologue. And with Prologue, we come in, we do messaging audits for companies, help them figure out what's wrong with their story. And usually they know something's wrong because it's not resonating. Actually, always. That's why they come to me. And so me and my team audit their messaging, look at the competitive space, see what everyone else is saying and where we can find some white space for us to stand out, how we can position our product better. Then we will completely overhaul your messaging, like how you're talking about your brand. And then from there, we can start to help with collateral or getting this executed on your website. I work with sales teams on social selling. Less on the like Darren McKee is a great example of a guy that teaches how to pursue clients with social selling. Mine is more on the content creation side. Like we help a lot with that. And the big thing that we started the service in February that's absolutely taken off of podcast strategy work. And so we're actually producing and launching podcasts. I'm actually launching 2 new podcasts for companies next month, which has me crazy busy right now. They were both pretty big projects. I've got 6 days straight, Rita, where we're filming podcasts in June off-site. And so Prologue is just, I'm kind of making it up as I go. It's not even what I thought it was going to be. But in short, to your point, basically we're helping companies, stop positioning themselves as a vitamin and start finding that pain point. And we can talk more about that.
Oh, we're here to talk about that. That's the name of the episode. Are you a painkiller? But okay, let's just say Brad, prologuestories.com is where you're going to find him. You can find access to all of his socials. He's active on Insta. Are you on TikTok again or no?
Not yet. I don't know. I'm on Instagram, but not really.
Insta and LinkedIn. I mainly engage with Brad on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn's my jam.
You learn a lot just watching Brad navigate. So make sure you ring the bell next to his profile so that you get to see how he mixes it up. But so the story that so many of us get trapped in is the story of everything we need to say and making sure that we're saying everything that we need to say. And what you help people uncover is that turns us into vitamin salesmen because we're looking through the wrong end of the telescope, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you see, about what is happening. What is the thought process going on? And by the way, Brad, I don't think this is just exclusive to business people. I think anybody who's trying to get a job in this job market, anybody who's trying to get a promotion, it's the same thing. You've got to be a painkiller.
Yeah.
To really get the attention, right?
This is anything. This is how you position your fundraiser for your kids' t-ball team. It's all the way to how you position yourselves. Like once you think about the positioning, everything will shift in how you present anything. You're always trying to create that drama in your like I use the example. People are probably thinking I'm crazy on the t-ball thing, but think about it. There's a position where you could put that out there and it's really soft sell, but it's like, hey, sports are really critical for kids. Kids that play sports tend to go on and have better careers. They're better adjusted, and we need some funding because this is a very expensive sport. And by you participating, you can get a tax write-off, which helps you, but you can also help these kids become well-grounded adults. Like that's a totally different positioning than just saying, hey, can you help my kid out and just donate something or do this auction thing, right? It's the same with companies.
Well, and a lot of people start with what the perceived benefit statement is, right? We have so many families involved. This many people come to the field. They'll see your advertisement, right? They give all the details, right? And the story that you're telling yourself is, well, I'm in the head. Right. Of the buyer in this case, right? Because these are things that they care about. They need to know why they're going to get some kind of return. Why is that wrong? What's wrong about that story that we tell ourselves?
Yeah. So typically, we both kind of I'm gonna get away from the t-ball analogy to answer that question. Typically, when I come in and work with a brand, they know their customers really well, right? They know them really well. And they know that they have something that can really help them. Okay. The problem is their customers don't know them really well. They're still learning about you. Yet we jump into all the things we do to help you. And we're telling a story. It's like starting a movie towards the end, right? Like you can see how it all worked out, right? That's what most companies do with their websites or their collateral. It is jumping straight into how like the features of this product or this service. And we have 32 widgets that can help with all these tasks. And sometimes, and I'll even say most of the time when I look at this messaging, it's all about the feature, the widget, the service, and it's not about the problem it solves. It is assumed that, we know this client really well and they're all feeling this and they'll understand, what we're offering. But a lot of times it feels like a nice to have instead of a need to have. And that's the difference between the vitamin and the painkiller. Now, the other day, somebody said something to me about how vitamins are a huge industry and actually outsell painkillers, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. If you have a really bad headache or an injury that hurts, right? What would you pay a premium for, right? Like that's the positioning difference. Like I don't really care. I know it's not the perfect analogy. Like we can throw out the, the market size of vitamins or painkillers or whatever. I don't care about that. My point is, when someone needs something and that's what they're feeling most, that pain is what they're trying to solve for. you have a lot better chance of resonating than when you're floating all these features about your product that are just like, they feel like nice to haves. I mean, you can look at most companies' websites and you'll see that it's a lot of nice to haves, and there's not a clear problem established that they're solving.
I think it's so important, and I think whoever gave you that feedback, they're missing the point of it, because the point of it isn't that vitamins aren't valuable. Of course, right. Vitamins are valuable.
Well, the problem with vitamins is I don't know if they're working.
Right, and they don't work. They're not. They're a long play.
Right.
And what people are looking for is immediate relief.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to go back to what you said, because this is a lesson that I used to teach when I worked in corporate about change management all the time. And it's this thing about where you are meeting people. And you were talking about how the salesperson knows their customer very intimately. They've spent a lot of time learning about them. They're very deep into understanding them, but they forget that that's not reciprocated back to them yet. And we do the same thing in change management. Executives get way down the road with the case and why this makes sense, and they're all bought in. And then they just want to give one message to the employees and expect the employees to jump those months of work with them and be ready to go, yeehaw, let's do it. And then they wonder why it falls flat. Like, what's the problem?
They
why
didn't get
buy-in? Employees not on board with me, right?
Right.
And I kind of hate that word buy-in, because it's not, you're not selling it. You got to walk them on the journey. It's exactly what you're saying. You got to walk them on the journey with you. You got to give people a little bit of time for their minds to reposition, to reorient.
Yeah. We do this when we come in and do an audit, and that's a fair point on buy-in. I'm going to keep saying it for a second though, just because I don't feel like coming up with something else. But when I audit a company's messaging, I'll often find employees who are stuck, and they're like, "Oh no, this is a great way to position this. Customers love this," and I have to work with them. I'll intuitively guess when I come in. I'm like, I don't think that's good. I did this, one of my bigger projects I worked on this year. We did this. There was a saying that was everywhere on this company's website. It was on all their collateral. Their team said it all the time. And I was like, I don't think our customers know what this is. But I had to, interview the customers and figure out if they knew what that was, but also interview 12, 15 employees, get them involved. And then when we start repositioning, getting them involved in every level of that. I can't just go away, work in a cave, and then come back and unveil something and then feel a part of it, right? Like, you have to actually make them a part of it. They have to guide you, and they should. My job's not to come in and put lipstick on the pig. My job is to, if it's a pig, let's brand it as the best damn pork we can find, right? Like that. Right. That's the difference. Yes. Like in branding, I hate branding that's like,
I have a pig post today, by the way. You're not
did you?
But with lipstick.
I posted about sloths and turtles today.
You're gonna have to watch. You're gonna have to watch for it. I literally have the pig with lipstick today.
I love
it. Later today.
I have PTSD with that saying, because I once had a client yell at me and an account manager and slam his fist on the desk, and like blood vessels were popping out of his neck while he told us we were putting lipstick on a pig, which we weren't. But that's neither here nor there. But if I start twitching, now you know why.
Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us. I'm glad to have you back. Thanks for being a loyal listener. So what is we do get entrenched in our thinking. It's one of the reasons the coaching business is so big, or the consulting business even is so big, right? Because we get too close to it, and we lose our ability to really recognize resonance, because we get in this loop, right? So when you're working with your customers and they're telling you things like, no, this is really land, this is it, this is the thing. How helping somebody who doesn't have you by their side, who's stuck in that same place where they're not getting real results, but they're having this thought, but this is the soundbite. This is the message that's so clear. How do you walk yourself away from that? How do you give yourself space to reconsider that?
As the company, or as like when you're the company that's in that hole?
Yes.
Okay. So I read a really good book called Made to Stick last year as I was founding this company. And it had one of the greatest examples of how we cannot get out of our own head. Okay. I'm going to do something real quick, and you tell me what song this is. Can you hear that?
Not
Could
good.
you hear
I
it?
have to. Not
Okay.
very well. No.
Okay. So the point is, I was trying, for anybody listening, I was trying to tap the mic, but my mic is just so perfect, right? It's just too good of a mic to do the taps, apparently.
You could snap your fingers, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. We'll just carry on. You'll get the point. So the point is, there was a study where people come in and they would drum out "Happy Birthday" with their fingers. Sounds really obvious when you do it. If you did it right now, you would think it sounds like "Happy Birthday." I cannot hear the sonic variance in a knuckle tap, right? You can hear it in your head because you're living in your own head. Anyone else is only hearing a part of the sound, which is the rhythm. Okay. So it makes it really hard to know what Rita is thinking. We get that way with our companies too, and how we think about things. We get so deep down the rabbit hole, we forget that no one else has that context. And that's where it's hugely valuable. I think agencies in general have their place for a large company, because you get so deep down rabbit holes that you'll create really bad creative because you forget that audience doesn't know you as well as you know yourself. Consultants are the same thing, coaching, same thing. Sometimes it's good to pull you out of that black hole and to help you figure out what other people don't know about you. Right. I've experienced that. I'm thinking through all my clients really quickly. Almost all of them have some level of that challenge where they assume something is known about them. They assume that this statement will have the context that they want it to have. But our clients aren't thinking about us, right? I'm still learning this with my company. I pitched something the other day, and most of my proposals I've put out to CEOs who have sought me out. And the other day I was working with the head of sales and one of his teammates on a proposal. We put together this proposal, and it was like a $30,000 per project. And he comes back and he's like, "Hey man, I need some examples here, or like some context of what you're actually delivering." And I'm like, "Well, it's there in the line items." He's like, my boss isn't going to know what those line items mean. Like, we had that conversation, and I'm still, I've been building this stuff out with people I've been talking to directly, and they're usually the decision maker. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I haven't thought to give that context of like, what is this messaging deliverable?" So I had to add like 15 slides more to this deck that was only 7 slides long to begin with, to show examples and just give some ideas around like what this actually was. Perfect example of how literally this is what I do for other companies, and I was doing it myself, right? I got that outside feedback from a sales guy who's like, "This isn't what I need. My boss has no idea what I'm trying to get done here," right? It's helpful for all of us.
I think that I think this is so critical for us to understand that we need to be testing our messages. If you are out there, listener, if you're trying to land a job, but first of all, I got the perfect person to coach you through how to prep for that job. If you've been on 5 or 6 interviews and you're not getting any callbacks, hit me up. I'll hook you up with the woman that'll fix that for you. But this is exactly what's happening to you, is exactly what Brad is saying, that you think you have a message that you're landing about who you are for that job, and it is not landing, and you need somebody. And if you can't afford a professional, you've got to go into your network. This is why it's so important to build a strong network around you. You got to dip into your network of people around you and find some people who are willing to listen to you. And then you got to be willing to hear their advice.
Yep. Yeah. And to your point, if a rando hits me, I get hit up a lot for like picking my brain. I'd like to pick your brain. And I have to tell people now, or a lot. My favorite one is when they come in and say they would like my 2 cents, and I reply with however many hundreds of pennies it actually is going to cost them for an hour, because I tell them like, look, before when I was CEO of my tech startup, I would do these calls every now and then, try to help people as I could. But now, like, my time is my money. Like, that's how I make my living now. So like, you got to pay it. It's a little different when somebody I know comes in and they're like, "Hey man, I'm having this challenge. I think you could help me." They're like, "Yeah, man, let's chat on the phone for 15 minutes. I'll call them while I'm driving to get lunch or something." And I'm like, "We'll try to use time well. I'm not going to take away from my billable hours, right? But like, there's always time that you got that you can try to help somebody out with something like that. I'll call them in the evening while I'm making dinner or something." And I think, those people are people that are close to me. They're people that I've networked with. And, Rita, you're one of those people. If you message me like, hey, Brad, I could use your advice on my podcast, like something that I'm working on. I'm like, yeah, let's chat for 15 minutes. Let's try to figure it out. I think building that network up is really, it's something that people completely underestimate until they need it. And then when they need it, they're like, oh shit, sorry. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I did.
You're allowed to say that. Yes.
They realize that they needed it and they don't have it. Rita, one of the, I had a really successful launch of Prologue. And the business beat my last business in first year revenue in the first 90 days, I think, or first 100 days. But the thing, when I've thought about all the things that I've done differently, one of the things is that my network, when I started Go Wild, was nothing. I had not created content. It was like real bad LinkedIn content. But I didn't have a whole lot, my network was small. And I started building that through the process of Go Wild. And the thing I've realized most is you don't have cold starts when you have a warm network. Like that's one of the best things I've realized through starting this new company and this new era of Brad. I told you I've started a bunch of companies, and I say a bunch of small businesses. And one of my small businesses was profitable. One of them made like $8 over 9 months, and I shut it down. I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have reach. This time around, I've got a network, and it's honestly, I've turned away more work than I've taken,
Hey, Christy. Well, I had that thought about you too, Brad, about the warm network thing, because I've followed your journey through all of this. And I remember when you put the post out and you said, look, I'm sort of between gigs. I've got a few hours. I'm looking for a few clients if somebody wants some help. And I actually sent one of my clients to you, Allison Sherwin.
I remember that name, but I don't remember the conversation. I had 38 replies or 38 inbound.
Well, then when you did was it 30 or 45 day content challenge thing recently, I sent her back to you. I said, hey, Brad just did this thing, and she was late to the game, but she.
I think I talked to her and sent
I
sent it to her afterwards. Yeah. Yes, I remember her now.
And she started doing that. But it's true, because you were speaking to us, and those of us that were following your content, following your journey, you had relationship with us. And I think that's the key to all of this. I mean, yes, there's the part about being a painkiller, like knowing the painkiller piece, but the other piece, it's not enough just to have a really good painkiller. You also, the piece I'm taking away today that you've layered in that I haven't heard you speak to as clearly before, is it's painkiller on top of relationship. You can't assume relationship. You can't rush relationship. You have to have a journey of relationship building that is equal on both sides. You got to bring the other person into the story with you, along with offering them that painkiller.
Yeah, there's no like one thing, right? I know like Brad's thing's painkiller versus vitamin. That's like really good content because it's short and easy to comprehend. One thing I've learned with social content is like, if I were to come in and be like, this is everything I do, no one would read it, right? Like, and even when I talk about what I do directly, fewer people read it. But I told you, I think before the call, like I get my leads off of those small posts, those small reach posts, because my LinkedIn is still putting my content in front of the right people. And these are like, I'm a one-man band. These are $30,000 contracts. Like, this is not a small deal to me. Like, this is to a company, it might be, but to Brad, when I'm getting this off of a LinkedIn post that I spent about 15 to 30 minutes on, like, that's worth it for me. But if I were to come out and just constantly hit the whole funnel and my thoughts and the approach, it's challenging. But really, like, to what you're saying, like,
but it's not just the one. It's just not the one post. I think the one post is. Yeah, it's I got the water. I'm thinking about the water park. I'm sure you've taken your kids there, where they have the big bucket that slowly fills with water, and then eventually the last drop hits and the whole thing tips. And
that's a great analogy. That's what happens with people. I don't think he would mind me saying this, and I'll use him as an example. John Brooks, who you had on the show recently, John was one of my first clients, and when I put up that post that I was going to do some consulting work, I don't remember if John reached out immediately, but at some point John reached out and he said, "Hey man, I've been following you for years and I'd love to work with you." John had never commented on anything of mine. He had never liked, I didn't even know his name. And it's funny because, I ended up doing a small project for them and now it's turned into like, I work with John every day. And it was one post that tipped the bucket, that he saw that post of me inviting someone. It was a salesy post. It was me inviting someone to come work with me. Right. And he chose to message me at that time. I find lately, I'm kind of hitting all over that funnel. That's where I was going a second ago. It's a lot of things, right? Yeah, it's painkiller versus vitamin, but it's also understanding at what point in the customer journey when we can get away from that painkiller talk and talk more about why we do what we do, right?
Yes.
There's a whole, if anybody wants to dive into that more, there's a great book called The Compass and the Nail. It's by, I can't remember his name, but he worked at Patagonia forever and helped them figure out their storytelling and their customer journey. And it's this big, complicated process. But the overall mindset is that at first, we're earning our customers in this top end of the funnel. And as they come through, that level of storytelling that really teaches them why we do what we do, how we do what we do, that's what converts them into cheerleaders. And I'm grossly summarizing this, but that's like the gist of it. I'll hit different topics along the way of how I think of storytelling. And when I meet with a client, it's kind of like a ping pong ball. I never know which way the flipper is going to throw it. But they'll tell me like, "Oh man, the other day, I just did a consulting call with a guy the other day. I'd never heard of him, never talked to him before. We get on the call and he's like, "Oh, it was your post about XYZ." And I was like, "I got to talk to this guy." Right. And so I'm kind of staying within my framework of how I think and hitting just these different things that I work on. And I don't have some kind of master content strategy here. I mean, I just try to share what I'm doing. I mostly share like pretty shoot from the hip. I've got some parameters, but like that's what I would encourage people to do instead of just talking about how I do this. I want to encourage people to think about if you can start teaching people what you're learning with your own journey. If you are a designer, talk about the tools you're using, talk about the problems you're solving for clients as much as you can. And over time, people get to see how your brain thinks. And they say, you know what, Brad, or whoever this designer is that I'm making up, Jimmy, Jimmy thinks about things in a way that's a lot more thoughtful than how we've done things. I need to talk to Jimmy, right? Jimmy, I think, could improve our design because he understands this at a deeper level than we do. It takes time. And all my clients that I've coached, I tell them all, I'm like, this is not a silver bullet. You will not post and get client. That's not how this works. But I've had clients who, first 30 days, their impressions and engagement were nuts. It was like multi-thousand increases across those stats. 60 days in, Brad, I don't know. I'm not seeing a whole lot of ROI on this. Please just keep going. Please keep going. 90 days in, have not gotten a client yet, Brad. I'm not sure about this. Keep going. 120 days in, I think it was. No, let's see. Math is hard. I'm a journalism major. Let's just this would have been 6 months. Okay. I was 6 months in with this guy I've been working with. And this was last month or earlier this month. He said, it's working. He had told me all along the way that, I'm not quite seeing it yet. And
You've been filling the bucket, like right, waiting
for the started tipping. And he said, everybody I'm talking to about work and about trying to earn their business, they're starting to say, I see your LinkedIn content. I love how you think about this. And it takes time to build. But again, warm networks void a cold start, right? And so if with what you're building, you're not going to go build this empire. I use Darren McKee a lot. He's a casual friend. I wouldn't say we're like best buddies or anything, but I've known Darren since before he blew up. That dude was grinding on his content for years before he became this LinkedIn influencer with 140,000 followers. A lot of people are trying to replicate what he's doing, and you can't do it. You can't replicate what he's done because he did it his way. He's told his story his way, and he's done it consistently. Like, you just got to go start talking and posting and creating content and start showing people how you think, and that network is going to become more valuable over time. And you don't need to have, what's cool about LinkedIn, you don't need to have 10,000, 100,000 followers on that platform to drive business, especially if you're working in B2B, and one client can mean 2 months of revenue for you. You just got to get one person. So think about that when you're like, oh, I only generated 300 impressions. It's like, well, I only needed one of those 300 people to land. Now my odds feel a lot better, right? I'm sorry, Rita. I may have deviated from what you wanted to talk about. I'm just kind of,
no, we're in a good place. I
hopped up on caffeine and just rolling with it.
This is the capstone. We started at communication. My dear friend Karen Lau kicked off the season, and we talked about communication. And I love that we're ending here because this is what we're talking about. And that, it's a long game. And you have to think about, so the story we tell ourselves is immediate results, but you got to fill the bucket and trust that there is a tipping point, right?
Yep. I tell people out of the gate, like, if you're looking for immediate results, I'm not your guy. I don't want to do it. That pressure is not something I'm signing up for, because I think it's a misunderstanding of how content works. If you have an understanding that this is going to be at least a 6-month ride before we start seeing any results, then that's okay. I'm okay with that. But we don't just redo an email campaign and push button generate revenue in general, right? Like, you might see some lift, but this is in B2B especially, which is where I'm focused on right now, and really B2B and more boring spaces. I like that because I find a lot of opportunity there to really come in and make an impact, but it's a long process. We have to tell this story and we have to get that out there. And ideally, the best case scenario for B2B is I can get a paid partner in there to help. And I've got one that I like working with. And we'll come in there, and then we can accelerate the reach of those stories. And then it has some really good impact, a little bit faster. But, that's on the B2B side. If it's your personal content, just know, just showing up. How many people, Rita, did you say at the end of the 28-day challenge saying oh my God, here's a screenshot of my stats, and they were up hundreds of %? Because they weren't doing anything before, right?
Yes.
The volume of your reach was pretty much limited to your comments before, right? But now I saw people launch businesses during that period, which was amazing. That they started talking about what they were actually doing,
Well, and I think that the other piece, and this is something I am personally working on, is that if you were like me, if you're somebody that the story you tell yourself is, I'm here to do business. My husband and I have always sort of compartmentalized our life. We worked at the same company when we met. And so we agreed from the beginning of our relationship that work was work and home was home, and we weren't conflating the two. So we weren't coming home and talking about work all day. We didn't come home and bitch about our coworkers or our boss or any of that stuff. That talk was off the table. You leave that at the door.
Yeah, I like that.
So we've always had this separation, church and state separation in our house, right? And so that is in my mind. But what I see about you and a lot of other successful people is the story they tell themselves is they get to be their whole self. And I am my whole self on LinkedIn, but not in posting pictures of my family and me out on the weekends and doing these things. But part of that, you started with Go Wild because it was fishing and hunting, right? Of you with the big bass, of you with the deer horns, right? You outdoing what Go Wild was about. But you have not given that up as Prologue has moved on. We still see all of Brad, right? We see you as a whole person, and not just as a marketing guy or a sales guy or a storyteller in this tight business box.
Yeah, this is one of the hardest things for people to figure out, and it's hard to advise people on because we're all different on what we want to share. I've evolved on how I think about my family post. I've actually been even within the last year, I've shared some pictures of my kids, and I've gone back and started deleting them. I've had some weird stuff with my kids, like weird things, like posts that have gone viral. You just don't know where that content's going to end up, and people take things and misconstrue things. And now my kids' faces are everywhere. I used to have GIFs show up for my kids, at Go Wild, which started to freak me out a little bit. So I've never said my kids' names on social media. Like I've just kind of, I love my family, and family time is really important to me. And I talk about that, but I've kind of redacted some of that from my content. I think the important thing though is finding what's right for you. And some people share everybody's got to make their own decision. That's what's right for me.
But you still talk about family vacations.
I do. Yeah.
And stuff like that. It may not be featuring your kids.
Yeah.
You talk about places you've gone, things you're doing as a family, right?
Yeah.
You're showing your whole self.
Right. And I think where I struggle with this, and this is getting into this is probably a whole other topic. Nicholas Jamerson is a songwriter that I love. And he's talked a lot about lately of his songs and also how he promotes himself, and he doesn't want to turn his whole life isn't content, right? And I think a lot of us, when we start creating, we feel pressure to create all the time, and that pressure to create all the time will turn every angle of your life into something you feel like you should share. And I think there's a benefit to at least slowing down to reflect on, do I want to turn my kids into content? Like, it can go viral. I've seen it. I mean, I've had it happen myself. It's just, I have to, like, when I get really deep and introspective about like thinking through that and philosophical, really, like, is that something I want to monetize, which is my experience with my kids. Like I've struggled with that, and I've kind of backed off of their faces.
I will tell you, as a mom of two blonde hair, blue-eyed, beautiful daughters, I have always decided I never posted on Facebook, even back in the day. I never posted my kids a lot because of that. And my girls cheered for a while. And I mean, there's some scary people that show up at these cheer competitions.
Yeah.
Men by themselves that should not be there.
Well,
right? Taking pictures of these girls and stuff. And so it made me very aware and very cautious. So I have always held a pretty tight line about that, but I still have the opportunity to talk about when we vacation together, those kinds of things. And really, I think there is, I believe in well-being, and well-being is whole self. It is, and I think it is important that everybody gets to pick their line. I agree with you. But, for a while, there was this whole, that belongs on Instagram or TikTok. That's not LinkedIn. But I think, I think we are getting to this place. You and I have always been aligned on these things of really understanding that we are whole beings.
Yeah.
Even in our workplaces, and that we get to celebrate our whole selves. And that's part of talking about your why and what matters to you, is being able to share more about who you are as your whole self.
Yeah, I agree. So there's angles of this I want to explore, but for the sake of time, I'll focus on the question.
Yeah, we have about 3 minutes left, and we're going to have to.
So my advice to people is to focus around 80% on what you want to be known for. And it doesn't mean sell, right? Don't sell, actually, when you post your content. And then just try mixing in that 20% of what you love. And it does contextualize who you are. It's part of your story. People, I don't care, B2B, B2C, whatever, they buy because it's an emotion. They feel attached to you. I did this podcast, Rita, because of you, right? Like I knew you. This was a new podcast, right? This is a new thing for you. And I generally won't do new podcasts because I've done too many that flopped. Okay. So I knew you, though. I had a relationship with you. The more you can share that 20% in a way that resonates, the better those relationships will be. People will feel bonded to you. And just like when John showed up to help me, he said, I feel like I know you and I want to help you right now. Cause I was down. I was at rock bottom. My company had just failed. Right. So, there's a powerful component there, of sharing yourself. You just got to figure out that mix for yourself.
I think that's the perfect place to end. Keep working that network. And remember and I've had this happen too, Brad, you never know who's paying attention. They may never like, they may never comment, but they may pause to read every time. You just never know who is listening.
Yeah, for
out
sure.
there. And that's why I pay no attention to the analytics. I know all kinds of people that get wrapped up in things. I had a friend on LinkedIn, and she would take posts down if they didn't have so many comments or whatever in the first 5 minutes. And I would just be like,
Silly.
okay, I can't, like, that is like, that's a whole nother job I don't
I
have
always tell
time
people
for.
not to bother with that because like if nobody saw it, nobody saw it. Nobody knows that you
Yeah,
failed.
and who knows? Like, I mean, I have people come around a week, 2 weeks, a month later. I get presented content all the time that's a month
LinkedIn
old.
content has a longer shelf life than people think.
Yeah, I think so too. So, but the most important thing here, what I want everybody to walk away with are these two big lessons. Number one, pay attention to where the relationship is on both sides of the table, not just your side of the table, so that you are giving the other person an opportunity to know you fully, so that, and we talk about know, like, and trust all the time. This is it, right? Relationship building. So don't just because you feel strong attachment doesn't mean the other person does yet. Make sure you give some space for that. And then number two, make sure that you are speaking to something that they are looking to resolve immediately, that you're offering them that immediate pain relief. And then you can offer them your long-term vitamins. Long-term vitamins are awesome. I take all kinds of them, but you
That's
want,
lower down the funnel.
yeah, you want something that is going to immediately give them a reason to take the next step with you. And this is true whether you're trying to get to the next round of interviews, whether you're trying to get that promotion, wherever it is. You don't have to own a business like Brad and I do for these lessons to resonate. They
right.
have application in many areas of your life. And keep working on warming that network. Keep working on it. I'm going to give a little shout out post here to StreamYard. Thank you, StreamYard, for hosting the first season of the story I'm telling myself. Like you, Brad, I just make stuff up as I go. I don't care how everybody else does it. I am not I am not following all the rules. I love lives. I love the fact that, like Saturday Night Live, this podcast is a live podcast where the audience gets to participate with us, and we just get to be in the moment together. And it's going to be genuine and real, and people are enjoying listening to it. So this is episode 37. It is the close of season 1. But we are we're in a slower release over on the podcast channel. So whether you listen on Spotify or Apple or Audible or, wherever you go, even iHeartRadio, shout out to iHeart. I used to do a podcast on their stations. You are going to find the story I'm telling myself over on those platforms. Go back and listen to the old episodes. I am enjoying listening to the episodes again. I get new insights just listening as each new episode rolls around. And this week, it is Tandra Price. Tonight at 5, we're dropping Tandra. Tandra is a media mogul. She's sharing her tips about how she blew up from just being a networking expert to somebody that now runs a media company, doing TV, doing magazine, and really being able to showcase people in her network in a way that she wanted to differentiate from what anybody else is doing. Very, very awesome story, and about overcoming all the objections she had about having never done that before, but choosing to lean in and trust herself, find the right partners, and move forward. There's always something great for you on the story I'm telling myself. Just follow along, catch up on old episodes, and if you love us, give us that 5-star rating and review, because that is going to help other people find us. And then you can also share a few episodes, which will move us along that path a little bit faster, because we want to see the story I'm telling myself go worldwide. Thank you, Brad, for bringing such a beautiful capstone to season 1 and for saying yes. I saw your post where you were like, I said yes to some podcasts, and I was like, oh, is he talking about me?
No.
He's like, yes to my podcast, and now he's in regret about it. Oh, well, you're
No.
And nobody brought the raccoon memes.
I know.
Yeah. But you never know.
All right. Next time.
Next time. Thanks for being with us. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I will see you for season 2 next year. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you for joining us on the story I'm telling myself. If you loved this episode, would you do us a big favor to help us reach a bigger audience? simply subscribe to the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast and rate this episode and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening.